Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and because it's been such a beautiful day in Portales, New Mexico, we decided to bring in two spring sport coaches. We've got Amanda Fefel. She is the head coach of Greyhound softball. We've got Casey Claflin. He is the assistant coach for Greyhound baseball. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Greyhound track and field has already had 7 provisional marks set for the NCAA Division II Indoor Track and Field Championships. They'll try to add to that this weekend. They have a 2-day meet in Lubbock. Greyhound women's basketball finally got off the schneid. They had lost 5 games in a row, but they had a convincing 26-point victory against Cameron on Saturday. And the Greyhound men's basketball team on Saturday continued their win streak. They are still in first place in the Lone Star Conference in men's basketball. Both of those teams will be in action Saturday at home against the University of Texas, Dallas. Well, it has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and we'll bring in our first guest, Amanda Fefel, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring back to the set of Sportslook the head coach of Greyhound softball, Amanda Fefel. And Coach, welcome back to Sportslook.
Thanks for having me, Doc.
Coach, it is the springtime, and the Greyhound ladies have already been engaged, and as of right now, you got yourself a winning record.
Yeah, 4-3. A lot of hard opponents early in the season, so just building right now.
So obviously, you think you know how a season is going to progress, and then sometimes you're absolutely right, and sometimes like, no, we're maybe a little better or a little worse than some things. So what did you think you knew going into the season, and what do you know now?
Yeah, I thought obviously offensively we were going to struggle a little bit, have a completely different lineup than we did last year. I thought defensively we were going to be able to handle the ball, and I think we had some kinks along the way. I think we're still piecing things together right now. What I did know and what I do know, our pitching right now is obviously handling a lot of that heat for us defensively, and I think we're going to have still a strong core. Miranda Guillen returned, Marissa Rodriguez returned, Jordan Rivera returned, Sierra Loken. So we had a lot of our arms returned from last year, added 2 new arms to the circle, which have been a tremendous thing for us. So again, still piecing things together, but offensively, defensively, working the kinks. But I think our pitching staff right now is what I did know was going to hold us down for the first part of the season.
Normally, I'd ask you what your biggest needs were going into this season, but you graduate a lot of girls, so you basically had a lot of needs that you had to figure out during the fall.
So 7 of 9 starters from last year graduated. Brought in 11 freshmen, 3 transfers from JUCO. And then obviously right now in the lineup or returning, we only have 2 seniors. So relatively a very young group, even our sophomores from last year, just low experience just because we had such a senior heavy class. But if you look at our lineup right now, I believe we're only playing 1 upperclassman, maybe 2 on any given time. Everyone else is pretty much a freshman or sophomore in our lineup.
So talk a little bit about your returners. Yeah,
so of course, Miranda Guillen is probably by far our biggest impact player on that side of the ball. She held us down for a long time last year in the circle. Same thing, still probably game 1 starter for us in most of our games. Then we have Marissa Rodriguez, another arm returning. Also big bat out of her from the lefty side. She offensively right now still finding her groove, but pitching-wise has thrown 2 gem of a games that I have seen her throw. With that being said, Christina Meneses, she last year was in our DP role primarily the entire season. Now she is our primarily starting for us at first base. So being able to get another big bat in our lineup in that DP role Alexa Ayala, she's a returner. She's now playing third base for us. She was very clutch for us last season on the offensive side of things, but now we're working her in as a third baseman to get her stick in the lineup as well. And then lastly, Emily Marsh, pretty much she played all of last year at second base for us, and she's still holding it down this year for us there.
How about shortstop?
Yeah, so we have a freshman this year. Her name's Kaylee Campbell, a kid from Boise, Idaho. Great athlete. Still letting her kind of work those things out for her. Very athletic kid, strong, high IQ of the game. So we're waiting for her to kind of just get that spark going offensively, but defensively, she's been solid for the most part of the year thus far.
And behind the plate?
Yeah, so we're going back and forth right now. We have a freshman, Seneca Arstead, and then we also have a returner, Haley Pierce. She caught primarily off and on for us behind, Alondra and Grace last year. And then them two right now are rotating in and out, just obviously where we are offensively and what we need in the lineup. But both of them are going back and forth. In the fall, we did have some crucial injuries. We did have another freshman catcher that was going to be primarily one of our better catchers back there. But unfortunately, she did have surgery and she will be out this season. But I think Haley and Seneca have done a great job holding down the fort there.
I was smiling as you said the name because I obviously follow you on Go Eastern Athletics, and then I was grading my first exams in my class and came across a girl named Haley Pierce, and I said, "Hey, are you the girl from the softball team?" And she said, "Yeah," and she seemed like really surprised, and I said, "Hey, there are those of us on the faculty who follow your sports." So she's doing an admirable job in the classroom so far.
That's good to hear.
Well, speaking of which, talk a little bit about the performance of the Greyhound softball in the classroom during the fall semester.
Yeah, I think it's a high expectation for us always. We do have team goals when it comes to that. We always want them to be above a team GPA of 3.0. I think collectively we had several kids with 4.0 GPAs, a lot above a 3.8. Our team GPA is just one of those things, we tell them they need to be eligible to be on the field. That's the fun part. So they really prioritize, especially in the fall, their high academics because of how much travel we do have in the spring.
Well, speaking of travel, you've been on the road the last couple of weekends playing, and we actually have highlights of some of your games. So we'll cue up the highlight reel, and please walk us through it.
So first game of the weekend was against Black Hills. They're a very scrappy team when it comes to things. Their pitching really is probably their dominant thing. I was very proud. We got on the board first against them here. I put a lot of pressure on their defense when we were on the bases, some clutch hitting. When it comes to those situations, we just need to not get in a pickle next time and get thrown out. But there, Lex, it was good to see Lex kind of turn on her offensive stuff this weekend. I know her and Tina from the left-handed side. This is another one with Lex. I think ball drops down the middle, scoring a run there. Yep, here's Tina. I think Sun, obviously you can see the girl kind of shading her eyes right there. I think two balls pretty much went to left field like that we were able to capitalize on, especially with them making an error in a situation and just getting some runs across the board. Marissa actually, it doesn't look that fast in this replay, but that ball was actually hit very hard off of her barrel, just turning on something, getting it through the infield. Talia splits a gap here and drives in. I think it clears the bases, but she gets thrown out at third base, got a little over aggressive there, but she did clear the base with that split of a gap. OC's Park, it's very big. It actually goes back at an angle there, and we were able to, a couple times this weekend, get extra bases off of that. Tina, too, just getting a ball off the end of the barrel, able to drop it in, keep a rally going for us on 2 outs. Same thing with Lex off of the end of the barrel, just a two-strike approach, just trying to get the ball in the play there for them. Yeah, same thing here. This ball here doesn't look that fast either, but Seneca did a great job of just turning and, again, another two-strike approach there with 2 outs, just keeping it going. She really was off and on for us, but I think that was the biggest thing. I think Nat had another same thing, big gap here, being able to clear some runners into the gap, getting her pitch to drive. Oklahoma Baptist, this score if you guys can see 9-1, this was the inning we really came back. Tina got a hold of a ball there. We were actually in a run rule situation, and this is probably the same inning where we kind of just turned things on and we just started scoring to get from a 8-0 loss to putting runs on the board. But Jordan, pinch hit opportunity here, and she came in, hit a home run for us. Again, putting more runs on. So again, a lot of pinch hitting roles that are coming into the season right now, calling girls off the bench to get a job done, and they've done a great job executing.
Of course, I knew Jordan could pitch. I didn't know she could hit. So
Yeah.
next time I see her in the comm building, I'll have to talk to her about flexing. So.
No, she's doing a good job in the circle. I think she's only had 1 or 2 opportunities right now to go in. Like I said, pitching wise, we've been pretty solid. A lot of arms being able to go the distance for us. But yeah, it's good to see her come in and swing for herself too.
Of course, Jordan is from the state of New Mexico. She's from Las Cruces. How many kids from New Mexico do we have this year?
Oh my gosh. We're kind of from all over this year just because of the base, but Madison Begay, obviously Jordan Rivera. We have a lot more within the range of it. I want to say we have 3 or 4 that are from the state of New Mexico.
What's been, during your years at Eastern, what's been your most fertile recruiting ground?
Probably California. California, a lot of the West Coast, just because you know how big the Lone Star is, it's very Texas heavy. So going down there and competing with people to come out of the state of Texas is a little hard with softball, especially being such a Houston, Dallas, San Antonio area. A lot of those individuals want to stay in the state of Texas. So we've kind of found our niche going West Coast, you know, Arizona, Washington, California. I just think it's worked out for us. Again, kids coming here in this conference and wanting to compete.
There are a couple of your colleagues in the coaching fraternity and sorority at Eastern New Mexico University that will remain nameless that have told me pretty much they'll never recruit freshmen. They need players that come in junior college, battle tested and ready to go. But you've got quite a few freshmen. So why that approach with you? What do you see as the advantage of bringing in a first-year student?
Yeah, I think growth. Every time I look at a class, you know, it's okay. I'm a JUCO person as well. We went and got 3 JUCO players this year. When I first started out here, if you remember, my first 2 years, we were very JUCO heavy. That's where the turnover came really fast for us in that 3rd year. But for me, I think more importantly, especially with the transfer portal and people leaving and things like that, just across every sport right now, I just wanted to build in growth. And I think if you look at our roster right now and the individuals playing between freshman and sophomore and you give them more development over the next 2 years, I think we potentially could have a powerhouse. But, you know, that's going to come with experience and that's going to come with them playing and sticking together. But I think that was my mindset this year, was just go for the youth and build.
You obviously are not a one-person show. You've got a very loyal assistant coach. And talk about what Shanna brings to the table as your assistant.
Yeah, she, to that side of things, she is extremely good on the defensive approach as far as that goes. She played shortstop at NC State. I definitely give her all the rein when it comes to the infield approach, defensive shifts, things of that nature. And then obviously, Milana, can't leave her out. She played for us last year. She is now our outfield coach as well. So we kind of divide things up. May's handling the outfield, Shanna the infield, and I'm doing pitch and catching.
Do you just get a sense when you meet a young lady for the first time, this person would be a good coach someday, or are you kind of surprised sometimes find out that that's what people want to go into?
Yeah, actually, I don't think she really wanted to go into coaching. I think she wanted to go necessarily into psychology, but I think she wanted to combine kind of the sports and the psychological side of things together. So we had a great conversation with her once she had graduated, and obviously she wanted to pursue her master's, and so we brought her on board. But if I could have 3 or 4 more GAs, I'd love that. But I mean, I think it's just a matter of those individuals that are willing to stay around in Portales and really make an impact of where they graduated from.
Speaking of Portales, we are actually going to get to see your young ladies in Portales. And if people come out to watch you play against our bitter arch rivals, West Texas, what can they expect to see?
High energy, grittiness. We have a lot of intense players. I think for the first year, I am kind of taking that backseat approach. Coach Shanna's coaching third base. And so just picking their brains on the offensive side. I think we have a high IQ team right now, and I think that's really coming out in our level of play, too, with them being so young.
Well, Coach, the last couple of years you qualified for the Lone Star Conference postseason. You've won your first round game. Let's hope that at the end of this year we can talk about the Greyhounds not only going to the postseason, but winning at least 2, maybe 3.
Absolutely. I think that's always the goal, and I think now the expectation to make it there.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set and we'll bring in our second guest right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring back to the set of Sportslook the assistant coach for Greyhound baseball, Casey Claflin. Coach, welcome back to the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Coach, one thing we've learned so far in the season is Lone Star Conference is a pretty tough conference.
Tough, and everyone's new. I think that's one of the biggest things is every roster's new. There was a lot of turnover from last year's teams, and as our team's brand new, WT is brand new, Angelo State's brand new. There's a lot of new faces in the conference this year.
I know that because I'm one of the voters for the Lone Star Conference, and in the preseason poll, they asked us to pick out the pitcher of the year and the hitter of the year, and it was like everybody that I thought of who graduated last year.
Yeah.
There were a lot of good kids in the conference.
Yeah. Now they're all Division I's.
And that is true.
with all the new rules and everything, they got the year eligibility back. So, yeah.
Well, obviously, you and head coach Raleigh Price, you had fall ball. There were things that you thought you knew coming out of fall ball going into the season. And some of those probably are true, but sometimes it's like, I didn't see that one coming. So what's the one thing you thought you knew coming out of the fall that's proven true, and what's the one thing that's been something unexpected?
I still think that the talent we have on the mound, I think, is definitely still there. I know, so far the first 17 innings of our year have been pretty good, and so far some struggles been there, but I still believe in the talent on 1,000%. So I still believe that to be true. And again, I think that's the biggest thing is just offensively. Again, a lot of new faces. There's some talent there. Trying to figure out how these guys work together. I think that's as they're trying to mesh, find the rhythm themselves, kind of not just rule standpoint, but how does this group score runs together? How does this group play defense together? I think that's kind of what we're still trying to figure out a little bit, knowing again where the pieces should go, but or really what the pieces are, but really how do they go together? So the pitching talent is definitely one thing I still think is 100% there, and now it's just more of fine-tuning execution, and then, like I said, then ultimately offensively finding rhythm.
So talk about your starting pitchers. Who are they, and what do they bring to the table?
So far, obviously we've only played 3 game sets so far, so next week we'll be playing 4. So far we've started Cole Lancaster, who's a returner, through mostly on Saturdays for us last year, and then Charlie Pearson's a transfer from Frank Phillips College. Both those guys are righties, good fastball changeup mix. We'll mix some slider and curveball as well too. Nick Mooney is a returner, lefty, through a lot of Saturdays for us as well last year. Kind of dealt with some bicep issues a little bit too. So, but he's back, healthy through live today. Mike Early is another guy who's in the mix of starting. Probably looks to have his first start this weekend. Against WT in a 4-game set. Alex Sanderson is lefty, transfer from USC Upstate. Lefty, 88 to 91. Going to pop a 2, pop a 3. And so he's in the mix as well too. And so now it's just kind of, getting those guys right. He had some issues. Alex Sanderson had a back issue coming back. So again, his pitch count was low. So we threw out of the bullpen the first week. Last week was his first start. So again, trying to get these guys in their feet wet, but also get the jitters out, but also win baseball games. And so, and I don't necessarily know what our weekend rotation is going to look like right now, but those are the 5 guys right now that are in those starting spots.
So obviously, I could go on and list like 7 guys that were crucial to you last year that aren't at Eastern this year. Out of the returner regular players, position players, Who are the guys that have emerged as your team leaders?
Adrian Martin. You came in last year as a transfer at semester for us from New Mexico Junior College, and ended up being our everyday first baseman about 3-4 weeks in the season. And so far, he's played mostly first, played a little bit of third base, middle order type bat for us. Played a pretty good weekend overall against St. Ed's this past weekend. And so again, it's really nice to see a guy that we recruited, and then came in at last year as a break for us, and again continue to develop, and then continue pushing his game defensively, playing a new spot that he hasn't really played since high school, and or at least his freshman year when he was at New Mexico, and the University of New Mexico. And so he's been there. Anthony Cortese is our other returner who unfortunately had a hand surgery in the fall and is still recovering from that, just dealing with some complications with his wrist. So we're definitely missing him. I mean, we used to hit our 4 or 5 hole all last year. So obviously missing him big time right now. Just any team that's going to miss their 4 hole hit 330 plus with 5 or 6 home runs is going to be missing him. So those are key returners. We're now right now just trying to get Cortese with his hand in the wrist situated. So
the opening weekend, you guys were at home. You played against Texas A&M Kingsville, and you won the first game of the season. I think it was 9-5. So what did you do well in that game?
Oh well, couple breakout innings offensively. Unfortunately, the first 2 runs we kind of gave them came from an error in left field, and then kind of a miscommunication, defensive mishap in up the middle, and all of a sudden now 2 outs and a single scores a guy, and so falling down 2-0, and then responding back and making a 2-1 game, and then scoring 3 runs, and I think it was the 3rd or the 4th. And then that really kind of broke it over from there. I think kind of got the monkey off the back kind of deal. And then from there, again, continue putting pressure, and then to where, believe Jake Roller then hits a 3-run bomb. I think it makes it 7-2, maybe 7-3. And that was kind of it. And then tacking on 2 runs late because of some, again, timely hitting, some good small ball, aggressive base stealing. And even that first game, we won 9-5, and we still gave them 4 runs, I really thought. And so I think it was, again, offensively having some breakout innings, and that's where, and on the pitching side of it, really minimizing base runners, minimizing free bases, making it Kingsville earn everything they had, and forcing them to put the ball and play hard. And again, that day it was great, and again, a little shaky maybe at the end, but again, it's the first time out for a lot of guys, and that especially in the first game of the year. So.
And then the next day was a Saturday, and it started out with like 13 degrees in Portales. And
yeah,
it warmed up a little bit by game time, but it wasn't very warm.
No, it was interesting that it was one of the only games I think I can remember. And even being from Ohio, I've played a lot of games in 35 or 42 degrees, and it feels like 30 degrees. And it got warmer as the game went on, which is interesting. For most times, it doesn't happen that way. And so we really wanted that sun to come out sooner. The forecast was for it'd be out by 11. Didn't come until about 4. And Charlie Pearson, really worked hard, really pushed hard through it, and was able to really stay pretty good and with really efficient innings in that cold. That was one thing I was really concerned about, was how many times he goes back out after a cold game. And but when it's kind of game like that and pitchers are competing well and it's pretty efficient, it's pretty easy to get 5 innings out of that in a sense, or 4, actually 5 complete innings. So, and then from there, Max Edmondson threw really well, and then unfortunately some balls found some weird holes and the top of the 9th, and we ended up losing, obviously. So.
Well, Coach, the good news is that you get to play in the friendly confines of Greyhound Field. Pretty salty opponent that you're going to be playing this weekend.
Yeah, WT, again, brand new. I think they had 24, 25 seniors last year. So they're kind of in the same boat we are right now, trying to figure out kind of what their team is. And so I think the biggest thing for us is on the pitching side of it is really competing better in the zone, really working harder, winning counts, winning our 1-1 counts, getting up 2 strikes, and forcing swings. Again, hitting's hard, but when it's easy, when it's 3-1 counts consistently, 2-0 counts consistently, it becomes a little easier. Hitters get a little more relaxed, and the reality is we need to play good baseball around. We need to play good on defense. We need to swing it well. We need to compete better in the box. We need to compete better on the mound. It's really that simple. We just need to play better baseball. And so I'm excited to have these guys back at home, playing a team. I'd say it's struggling like us, but trying to find their identity and really trying to find their group. And so it's a good opportunity for us and good test because for a lot of it, it's kind of like, hey guys, we're playing ourselves right now. So and can we go out there and actually take care of the baseball? So if we do that, then good stuff's going to happen. If we don't, well, then it's going to be harder to win.
Well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck against WT and for the rest of the season.
Appreciate it, Doc. Thank you for having me.
Well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sports Look. So what we'll do is we'll look for the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Now that the Super Bowl is over, I can officially tell you that I was rooting for the Seattle Seahawks. I didn't want to appear partial last week. Of course, the reason I was rooting for the Seattle Seahawks, their safeties coach, Jeff Howard, a graduate of Portales High School, played for Eastern New Mexico University. One of their assistant strength coaches, Tim Ojeda, who was a Greyhound football player and on the roster, was injured, couldn't actually play in the Super Bowl, but a member of the team, was Bryce Cabledew, a graduate of Clovis High School. But I have to admit, as a Minnesota Vikings fan, I watched Sam Darnold play in that game, and I thought, why isn't he still wearing the purple and gold this year? Well, that is going to wrap up in overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sports Look. I'd like to thank my guests, Amanda Fefel and Casey Claflin. I had a familiar face back as my floor director, Mr. Kyle, doing a great job for me. So for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.